I've got an announcement to make. I have a free energy device in my home, which surpasses everything. It's been there for about 5 years now, and it's totally changed our life in our home. Now, that free energy device is available to all of you for free. It's been around for thousands of years. The difference between that free energy device 1,000 years ago and the device that's now is that the new device has glass and it controls the air intake into its being. But it's the element of the house which in times past would have stopped the crofter in Scotland from going mad in the winter time. In other words, it also clears up seasonal affective disorder and low-grade depression. I think you all agree that that's a tremendous announcement that I've made today. Without telling you the ins and outs of what it exactly is, I guess you're making a few guesses at this point. Well, the answer is it's a wood burner. The free bit is that it runs on the waste products off of my building sites. So the timber goes into there, doesn't cost anything, and it keeps us warm. And the light that comes out of it is very much like we've just heard. It's like the sun coming into our home. And when I go home and that fire is on, it has a magical effect on the home. And all of the ecological buildings that we build these days for people, we work as project managers, building ecological buildings, often generally for self-builders. We try and recommend that they have a wood burner in their midst. And I'm a member of the Environment Group in the House of Commons. I've made representations in Parliament basically saying that there ought to be a law which stops fireplaces from being taken out of buildings. There was a certain laughter in the Parliament when I said that, but the issue here is that the fireplace is probably one of the only places that can take us through any difficulties that we might have. It's a place that we can cook, it's a place that we can burn, and we can be warm. So be very careful about removing your fireplaces. And if you are building an ecological building, do think of that fireplace as the place which you can cook on as well. It's a very important place. So when I was saying to you it clears up low-grade depression and seasonal affective disorder, that was totally and completely right. There's something very magical about looking into the flames of a fire. If any of you have had a romantic evening, and on the table of this romantic evening, you've had a candle between yourself and your partner, I would ask you the question, is it your partner that's given you this experience, or is it the flame of the candle that's given you this experience? Are you having is that flame having the same effect on you as it does on the moth that flies into it? It's an important issue, isn't it? And missing from much of the ecological fixes that we get today. I put the first ground source heat pumps into London. I won the FMB Master Builder of the Year for that. Those ground source heat pumps are brilliant. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little while. But there's a lot of what I would call, not mis-selling, but silly selling these days about what we would call ecological products. The most important aspect of that is that some of those products that you might buy and put into your homes, they take your money away from you. You might well be saving carbon, but it's costing you a lot of money. I don't think that's necessarily sustainable. The other thing is that some of those technologies that are going into place, which you're sold, you'll literally never get your money back on them. So why put them in? So I would suggest to you that keep it simple. If you're doing a renovation or you're doing a self-build, then keep it as simple as possible, because it's the interface between these technologies where they fail. Now, some of you here might even find your gas boiler at home a bit of a mystery about how you set the clock. And in fact, most things, be they ecologically sound, sustainable, energy efficient, they really don't reach their potential because people do not know how to work them. In the last week, I was invited to a school where they've spent £9 million on developing this school with an array of technologies. They've got PV systems on the roof producing electricity. They've got hot water systems producing hot water. They've got systems for evacuating the air out of the building and recapturing the heat as it leaves. They've got gas boilers on the building, which acts as a backup system. And they've got ground source heat pump systems on this building. And do you know what? That building is not working. And in fact, I'm doubtful whether it ever will work. It really is quite frightening what is actually being done under the name of ecological sustainable building. So do think about that. Keep it simple. Stick to one or two technologies. And remember, is it about money or is it about carbon? Is it about your pocket? Well, the issue here is that it can be about carbon and your pocket. So do think about that very closely. This is how you see me quite often on site, working on buildings. One of our latest buildings that we've just finished for a head of a housing association in London is actually running on a well. So we're very close to the River Thames, and we're producing all of our energy needs out of this well in the garden, which is actually working very well indeed. Don't forget the pun. So the first thing that I'd really like to suggest to you, because I'd like you to go away with some things that will help you in your life, is that any ecological system or any heating system that uses a tank will lose 50% of its energy over the course of a year. So any system where you're storing water in a tank, 50% of that stored heat will be lost out of that tank over the year. And that's regardless of how much insulation you put on it. It's the fact that it's not used for periods of time and the heat is lost from it. So what does that mean? Well, it may mean that what I'm actually saying is that any system that you might have that doesn't use a tank would be a very good system to use. And in fact, one of the systems that we recommend these days is a gas boiler system that incorporates a technology called Xenix technology in it. And this is a very simple technology that takes the flue gases that go out of the wall, captures those flue gases, and uses that to preheat the water coming into that boiler. Phenomenal efficiencies, much more efficient than my ground source heat pump or my wood pellet boiler system. Really very good, and doesn't necessarily need a tank. Now there's another addition that we have on that, and that is where we do use a very small tank, between 25 and 50 litres. And what we do with this tank is we link it up to a PV array on the roof which makes electricity. But we don't put that electricity into the house, we actually put that electricity into the tank by direct current, a direct current immersion heater. Now, just a while ago I said to you, any system that uses a tank, you will lose 50% of your energy over the course of the year. Do you want to throw 50% of that money away? That's all the energy that you're using in your radiators, all the energy that you're using in your water supply. So I'm saying to you, well, now I'm saying put a tank back into place. But what I'm suggesting here is that if you do use a tank, then capture free energy either essentially from the sun and store it in that tank, and you're basically storing it there for nothing. And use that to displace the 50% of the energy that you're losing. So when you're using that combination, you can see that then you're using a tank efficiently.